like, hey, I just got these pages. Let me just look at these for a couple hours, and I'll go in, and I'll fucking kill it in there. Oh, what? They said I didn't get it? Oh. And then, they think, okay, I'm going to change it up. This time I'm going to work like 10 hours on this audition. And they work 10 hours, and they go in, and they're like, oh, you didn't get it. I'm like, motherfucker, why should I work so hard and not get it when I can just go on stage, get a big check,
get it every time?
And get it every time. I write, I direct, I produce, I star in my own fucking show, and I get paid. I gotta walk in and read their lines and listen to this fucking intern read them
Calm down, Katz. You're an hysteric.
Sorry.
By the way, Brad Williams last night, Irvine Improv, he walked out with a chick.
See? There you go. So,
3 feet tall. He walked out, went home, and crushed ass. That motherfucker sold merchandise in the lobby and walked out crushing ass. So you're right.
So that's the thing. So what most comedians need to do, if I would advise anybody, imagine if, like, most comedians have their 10,000 hours as a comic, and they have their, 500 hours as an actor.
You're referring, of course, to Malcolm Gladwell's theory in the movie in the book Outliers, that greatness starts after 10,000 hours of repetition.
Yes, so there's a reason why Anthony Hopkins reads a script 100 times before he does the movie, or a comedian. If you're going to do anything, you got to act, and you got to get in that business. You got to figure out a way to work hard. You got to wake up every morning, get a scene, start practicing, working it on tape, and actually put in your 8 hours a day or 6 hours a day. When Ralphie's on the road, he's got all that time during the day. Imagine if he woke up every morning, just took some pages off the internet, and just, started working on the scene, and then record himself like he was actually doing an audition.
Let me ask you a question. What if Ralphie doesn't want to?
If he doesn't want to, I respect that.
Jeez Louise. Because I don't think Ralphie has any illusions of being dazed and confused, riding around in a Camaro with McConaughey. I think Ralphie kind of wants to be the greatest.
Faison Love weighs 375 pounds. He's been in 17 movies in 15 years. And I'll
take Ralphie May 1,000 times over a fucking Faison Love.
He's been in 4...
If there's a comedy draft, Faison Love's an unrestricted free agent. When we clean the board of comics, I'm taking Ralphie May first round lottery pick.
Okay, so Ralphie...
Yes or no?
So Ralphie...
Hold on, yes or no?
In terms of stand-up...
If you're doing a lottery, if you're doing a stand-up comedy draft, Ralphie May is a first round pick.
No, he's not.
You're out of your mind. How? He's a monster.
Ralphie May, the first round pick is the top 30 in the football draft. You're saying he's he's a top 30 stand-up comedian in America right now.
Yes.
Okay, well that's
as far as going on stage and making a crowd bananas, hands down, absolutely.
Top 30.
Well, I know why your list doesn't have him on it. It's because you got like Steve Martin and Albert Brooks and people like that. I got news for you, Katz. They ain't moving shit. They ain't going on stage and moving a crowd at all. You know why? Because they're sitting on an art collection and they're not going out at all. Steve Martin isn't going to the Laugh Stop in Houston and annihilating 400 people at a time 5 times on a weekend.
All right, so let me tell you this. If you're talking about my draft of people who are not household names, he's in my first round draft.
Fair enough. Felipe, how do you say his last name?
Esparza.
Felipe, the Penguin, Felipe Esparza. He goes on at April Foolishness, but I thought he was super high, but I thought Eddie Izzard. Basically, everyone I saw I thought was super high. I thought Eddie Izzard was super high, and everybody goes, "No, he can't be. He runs marathons." To which I wanted to reply, "Do you know how high I would have to be to run a marathon?" Felipe was so socially awkward. I was in the bathroom, the general public downstairs bathroom, because my toilet had ants on it, so I couldn't sit on it to go potty. My pre-show evacuation, I couldn't do that because there was so much pot smoke that I was nervous. Like I had smoking pot, like I had a contact high, and I knew that if I sat on a toilet with ants on it, I would be scratching my ass and thighs for the next 4 hours. Even if there were no ants in my pants. This is actually what happened. You want to know showbiz and the glamour? Where do I shit? There's ants on my toilet. So I go in the toilet that everybody uses, and there's a knock on the door. As I'm washing my hands, I'm done. And I go, I'll be out in 5 seconds.
So somebody thought it was actually a private bathroom. They're knocking on the door.
No, I went to the bathroom that everybody uses.
That's
not a dressing room bathroom. In the hallway bathroom.
Oh, but it wasn't a big bathroom. It was just a small one.
Just a place to sit behind a door, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm washing my hands. There's a knock on the door, and I go, yeah, 1 second. And I literally was like drying my hands when the knock happened. I opened the door, and Felipe Esparza is there. But instead of just being the guy that was waiting for the bathroom, I saw him like absolutely panic and start to walk away. But there's nowhere to walk because you're in a hallway underneath the stadium. So you're either going to walk
underneath the stadium again.
You're either going to walk 100 yards in a hallway in one direction, or you do what Felipe did. He just goes 3 feet to his right and leans his back against the ice machine like, I was just hanging out here the whole time. I don't even know what you're talking about. And I go, hey, buddy, how you doing? And he just gives me the chin like, hey.
Well, nobody wants to be the guy who knocks on the door. Excuse me, could you get out of there? And the door opens like, oh, sorry. And then the place smells like shit. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to be the guy coming out. I'm the one that just made the bomb. I'm the one that just napalmed the village in there. I'm the one that just took the Cleveland Browns to the Super Bowl. He's just the next guy in. If anybody should be embarrassed, it's me. Anyway, he goes on stage. Eddie Ift goes on stage. No, excuse me. Felipe goes on stage. Brad Williams goes on stage. And I remember standing in the audience in the second tier at the Universal Amphitheater. It's me, Peter O'Fallon, director of Suicide Kings, Eddie Izzard, Eddie Ift, and Jim Jeffries. And we're watching Brad Williams. This had to be the equivalent of what the Germans thought during the Normandy invasion, when the ships just didn't end, when they just kept coming in, when the horizon was just ships and ships. They didn't realize it was going to be 4.5 days of ships, and it kept coming. This guy killed so hard that we were looking around at each other going, okay, who wants to bet? Eddie Ift says, $100 he gets a standing ovation. To which my response was, every single person? Not like maybe not. Like there was no doubt he was getting a standing O. My only thing was, is there going to be a lame section where like 40 people don't stand in section 5G? Uh-huh.
That's the only way I was getting into that. He goes, and we all realized we took bets, and I said to Eddie Izzard, I said, 80% he gets standing ovation. That's the odds I'm putting. What do you say?
That's what see, when comics sit around, there's this feeling that you have that if somebody's going to get one or not. Can I just explain the standing ovation thing?
That's why you're here.
Because when you're starting as a white comic, if I may be so bold, when you're starting as a white comic, a standing ovation in a comedy club is one of the rarest things around. You just don't see it. You work your local comedy clubs in your town, and if it happens maybe, once or twice. I'm not talking about when a headliner comes to town, he's doing the special event at your place. I'm just talking about your local night, Tuesday, Wednesday. There rarely happens, and when it does happen, it's a miracle. Black comedy clubs, if you don't get a standing ovation, there's something wrong with you. It's like black audiences are the most accepting and most gracious and supportive if you're great, and if you're not great, they're the most difficult that they'll ever be.
I look up in the balcony, I see the Sandman stretching. A light-skinned girl starts booing me, and the Sandman is stretching.
So when comedians are in a theater, you can tell, because theaters are more accepting of comics, and you can feel the energy going for a standing ovation, and white comics can get them there.
A theater also, everyone is much more on your time. It's a much bigger deal. It's a much classier affair. It's a difference between a party and a gala. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like a governor's mansion party as opposed to a party at your buddy's house. It's a theater. It's where Pearl Jam played. Hey, all right. Thanks for coming out tonight. Little Brad Williams is the same height as I am. Who knew Eddie Vedder and Brad Williams were the exact same height? All right. Oh, bat. Then Vedder does his goat. I'm in hiding, baby. All right, thanks for coming out tonight, Brad Williams. So my biggest regret about April Foolishness was that Eddie Ift didn't have to follow Brad Williams in a standing ovation because Eddie's so angry, he probably would have wound up with his shirt off fighting. Tim Minchin goes up next, and I say to Eddie Izzard, how is he going to follow this? And Eddie Izzard, with a sublime, I also have an art collection smile on his face, says, he plays a baby grand. That's all he said. He's got a fucking piano, okay?
So, about following people, one of the funniest stories I ever heard was from Louis Anderson when...
Oh, man, I follow that guy, yeah. Barry Katz, huh? Is he a singer, huh? I never tried this one before. I guess I'll give it a shot. Yeah, I guess go on, Barry. Barry, you got any sweet tea? No, I guess I'll have what you're having then. Why don't we walk to it? It's right there. It's my favorite Louis Anderson joke about Las Vegas. You just go, why don't we walk to it? It's right there. You just point to the fucking pyramid, not realizing it's 6 miles away. Sweet Jamie Foxx, that singer, huh? That guy, who's he play for, huh? I'm doing Louis Anderson doing
Louis
his dad.
Anderson as Dennis Miller.
Yeah, that was a little Louis Anderson Miller at the end. Louis Anderson as Dennis Miller as Louis Anderson's dad, as Andy Anderson. Oh, God. Jamie Foxx. Oh, great. Here comes the mailman in the middle of the podcast. Mabel, let's go. She won't bite you. Come here. Mabel, let's go right now. Mabel. The mailman just got attacked by Yorkie. Hi, boss. All right. So Louis Anderson said.
Anyway, so...
I'll tell you, Barry. Check a cheat sheet. Jack Ruby got in the garage. How do you like that, Barry? Hey, the guy that owns the local titty bars here, he's got a handgun. Should we let him in? Yeah. Who the fuck were they turning away, Bert? Louis Miller. I think we've stumbled upon an astounding impression, again, that will never work in a comedy club setting. I just keep hitting out bombs that'll never work in real life.
All right, so Louis used to tell me when he was first at the Comedy Store and Mitzi had him in the main room, she would always...
Is that the big one, huh?
Yes, the big one. She would always make him close the shows, and she'd always make him follow Jim Carrey. And Jim Carrey would do that famous bit he had on Golden Pond where he'd be doing Henry Fonda and the thing. And every time you talk about a white comic doing well, he was one of those guys that got the standing ovation.
Jim Carrey.
And then Louis would have to follow that. And I said, how did you follow that, Louis? What'd you do? He said, I had my technique. It's an amazing technique. Because I also have the check spot, too. I said, what was your technique? He said, I walk up to the microphone, and right before I was about to say something, I'd say, let's have a hand for Jim Carrey, everybody. Unbelievable. And the crowd would just applaud wildly. And then he said, I'd pause a little longer, and then I'd go, you know what? That was so incredible. Let's have a hand for Jim Carrey again. They'd applaud. And they do it like 4 times to where the people just fucking hated Jim Carrey to applaud for his name. And then he knew he had them in his range, in his zone, and then he could just take them and do a great job and finish the show. That was his technique.
Brad Williams closed his set by getting Lisa May, who does weather and traffic for Kevin and Bean on K-Rock here in Los Angeles. He said, where is she? She comes out on stage, he puts her in a chair, and he gave her a lap dance. So he's doing like a handstand upside down with his legs like stripper moves to like peanut butter jelly time. And then the discussion began. How do you follow that? Like how you just said Louis would follow Jim. And I said, at that moment I went, oh shit, maybe I should go on next because I know how to follow it. I was going to go out on stage, stand at the mic for like 30 seconds and not speak and just look around at the destruction and the rubble and then just look to the wings and go, can I get Lisa May out here? And then I was going to do a lap dance for Lisa May and do my entire act as if I was a dwarf. And then like a minute into dwarf jokes that he had already said, I would look up at the audience and go, what? Don't fucking tell me somebody said this already. That was my plan. So Tim Minchin goes up next with the Baby Grand, Eddie Ift, then me, then Jim Jeffries, and then Eddie Izzard. I learned a very valuable lesson. We need in this business to know how to change. We have to be like water going downhill. As Vic the Brick Jacobs would say, feeling you, Barry. Can you change? Adapt on the fly? You have to be able to change. You have to be able to realize, and I think Katz will really like, Barry Katz, not Katz. I think Katz will really dig this. I think Barry Katz will really dig this. I realized at April Foolishness, I was, it was one of those moments where you realize you are fully in the
stage, get a big check.
Get it every time.
And get it every time. I write, I direct, I produce, I star in my own fucking show, and I get paid. I gotta walk in and read their lines and listen to this fucking intern read them like a...
Calm down, Katz. You're an hysteric.
Sorry.
By the way, Brad Williams last night, Irvine Improv, he walked out with a chick.
See? There you go.
3 feet tall. He walked out, went home, and crushed ass. That motherfucker sold merchandise in the lobby and walked out crushing ass. So you're right.
So that's the thing. So what most comedians need to do, if I would advise anybody, imagine if, like, most comedians have their 10,000 hours as a comic, and they have their, 500 hours as an actor.
You're referring, of course, to Malcolm Gladwell's theory in the movie in the book Outliers, that greatness starts after 10,000 hours of repetition.
Yes, so there's a reason why Anthony Hopkins reads a script 100 times before he does the movie, or a comedian, if you're going to do, hey, I just got these pages, let me just look at these for a couple hours, and I'll go in and I'll fucking kill it in there. Oh, what, they said I didn't get it? Oh. And then, they think, okay, I'm going to change it up. This time I'm going to work 10 hours on this audition. And they work 10 hours and they go in and they're like, oh, you didn't get it. I'm like, motherfucker, why should I work so hard and not get it when I can just go on? So you're going to do anything, you got to act and you got to get in that business. You got to figure out a way to work hard. You got to wake up every morning, get a scene, start practicing, working it on tape, and actually put in your 8 hours a day or 6 hours a day. When Ralphie's on the road, he's got all that time during the day. Imagine if he woke up every morning, just took some pages off the internet, and just, started working on the